This week, the moon is running through the void. And even though it's New Year's, and many of us like to set intentions or make resolutions, my advice, wait to make that wish and blow out the candle on the metaphorical birthday cake of 2026 until after January 7th. Hi friends, it's Emily with Emily T. Astrology, and I am your host for Hermes Speaks, this weekly astro check-in where we explore the current quality of time and bring in some added mercurial messages and insights through the written word and bibliomancy. So happy New Year, everybody. We made it through 2025, a year that felt a bit crazy, and astrologically was a year where we were standing on the precipice of the threshold, getting ready to step over. And now we enter 2026, a year that promises to be that step beyond the threshold into some brave new worlds. And hey, as we enter 2026, if you have been wanting a year ahead look, come see me. You can go to emilytotomer.com to book your year ahead reading with me. I love to dive in with you about what 2026 may hold. But before we get to these brave new worlds of 2026, let's talk about the current quality of time. This week, December 31st through the 6th of January 2026, we will be experiencing not one, but two Hellenistic void of course moons. Okay, so what does that mean? There are a couple of definitions of a void moon. In modern astrology, a void moon is when the moon makes its final aspect, and these are the major Ptolemaic aspects: conjunction, sextile, square, trine, or opposition. When the moon makes a final aspect to a planet while she is traveling through a particular zodiac sign, before she enters into the next zodiac sign, that period of time between the final aspect and the sign boundary is said to be when the moon is void. This can be anywhere from minutes to hours long, and because the moon travels through a sign in about 2.5 days on average, this period of a void moon will take place every 2.5 days or so. The Hellenistic definition of a void moon is when the moon makes an aspect to one of the visible traditional planets and then will not make another of those major Ptolemaic aspects to one of the visible planets for 30 degrees or more, regardless of sign boundaries. This is much less common than the modern astrology definition, and when it does occur, it can take place anywhere from 2 days up to 3 days and even into a 4th day. So let's talk about the particulars of these specific void moons that we are experiencing this week. All of these times will be in Pacific time zone here where I live, so adjust for your time zone accordingly. On the 30th of December at 10:58 p.m., again Pacific time, the moon in Taurus, sextile to Saturn at 26 degrees of Pisces, and then entered a void of course moon for 48 plus hours because she will not make another aspect to a planet until she is in Gemini and squares Saturn at 26 degrees, respectively, Gemini to Pisces, and that is taking place at 11:09 p.m. on the 1st of January. So essentially all of the 31st and all of the 1st, the moon is void. The next void moon that's taking place this week after our full moon on January 3rd, in Cancer, the moon later that day at 11:44 p.m. on the 3rd of January, the moon trines Saturn again at 26 degrees from Cancer to Pisces, and then will not make another aspect until the 7th of January at 12:01 a.m. Pacific time, when the moon is in Virgo and forms a trine to Mercury in Capricorn at 8 degrees. So that is the 4th, 5th, and 6th of January, moon running through the void. So we've talked about what a void moon is and the particulars of these void moons that we are experiencing this week. Okay, so what does a void moon mean? Well, the moon signifies our primary needs. It speaks to all things that fluctuate, that come to be and pass away. And so therefore, it speaks to our emotions, our bodies, our human lived experiences, the ways that we are nourished, the ways that we nourish others, because these are all things that are human, bodily, emotional, and that fluctuate constantly. And the moon is our great reflector in the sky. She is the translator of the light. She does not have her own light, but is reflecting the light of the sun. And as she passes through the sky, our fastest moving wanderer, as I said earlier, moving through a sign in about 2.5 days on average, she is reflecting the conversations that she is having with the other planets, reflecting the light, translating it, and then allowing it to be processed and brought down and embodied in our experiences as humans living here on Earth. Well, when the moon is not having any of these conversations, not having any light to reflect, any light to translate, she is moving through a period of time that is fallow. It is unsupported. It is a time when she is not even challenged by some of those harder aspects to the malefics that can be challenging, but motivating and dynamic. She is not receiving, reflecting, and processing any of the light, any of the information, any of the conversations or experiences that she normally has when she moves through the sky and forms aspects to the other planets. So this is a period of time that kind of feels like someone has pressed the dampener pedal on the piano. It's fallow, it's unsupported. The moon can't gain any purchase in her movements. And so that is why I said at the top of the show, let's not make resolutions when the moon can't really find purchase. This is not a time to be making plans, setting intentions, particularly when there is a quantifiable, measurable outcome that we are hoping for. This is not a time to be looking towards achievement, accomplishments, setting goals, because essentially the moon being unsupported, running through the dampener pedal of the piano, empty, moving into nothingness, she can't get anything started. You know, I have heard astrologer Ann Ortley refer to the void moon and say it's not even really a time to go get fresh groceries, produce, and meats, right? The perfect analogy is you go to the store, you buy all of the ingredients that you need to make this elaborate, beautiful meal, and then something happens, right? The power goes out. This happened to us the other day. The power goes out. You can't turn on your oven. You can't make the food. You have to go out to eat, and all of that food ends up spoiling before you have the chance to make it. That is the perfect analogy for the void moon. Things just can't get purchase. It's not the time to be starting things, intending things, again, particularly those things that are quantifiable, measurable, specific outcome oriented, right? And so I've mentioned what it's not advised to do during a void, of course, moon, but we all have to keep moving through our life even when the moon is void. So what is a void moon good for? Well, of course, reflection, contemplation, meditation, connecting to something of the ephemeral or spiritual, spending time with people you love or a hobby you love, where you're not trying to attain anything or achieve anything, you're just there to experience. It is a good time to just get quiet, listen, be curious, go with the flow, and see what comes up and pursue that without being attached to any outcome or specific achievement that you're hoping to attain. And I gotta say, frankly, moving into the new year after a busy holiday season, I've got 3 school-aged children, so all of the planning and prep that goes into Christmas, along with my youngest is a Capricorn son, born between Christmas and New Year's, so birthday planning, all of that. I'm kind of looking forward to a few days of just sitting in stillness and quiet and not trying to check things off of the to-do list. Well, now we come to the part of the show where we bring in those mercurial messages through the written word, and we employ bibliomancy to take a book, contemplate a concept, in this case, a void moon, open the book at random, and see what hermetic mercurial messages the oracle wants to give us. Well, this week I thought I had to pull from Everyday Sacred by Sue Bender. I thought the title itself felt like the right call for a void moon. And I opened the book and read. This is from a section of the book called Gale's Pot. One evening, needing a ride to see a friend who was in town from Japan, I was given the name of a woman named Gale, who was also planning to go. I called and she offered me a ride. As Gale said goodnight to her 6-month-old twin sons, I looked at the drawings on her wall. Round, fat, voluptuous, sensuous, luscious-looking pots in pastels that burst with vitality and joy. It was, in fact, the same pot, done each time in different intense colors and combinations. How did this pot find its way into your life? I asked Gale several days later. It was just around, part of the surroundings in a studio I rented, she said. Always in the corner of my eye, just the kind of shape I liked. Fat and simple. A white metallic enamel pot, 14 inches wide and 9 inches high. Gale was also teaching a graduate art class called the 100 Drawings Project. The task of the class was to find and draw 100 times one simple, familiar object, portable enough to bring to class each time. After hearing Gale describe the assignment to the first class, one of her students asked if she had done this project herself. She hadn't, and decided to join the class in the homework. Looking around her environment, Gale spotted the pot. She stared at it and felt the pot observing her. "Take me off the shelf," it seemed to say. Her first 4 black and white drawings were made easily, quickly, with little attachment to the outcome. Then, with 96 more to do, and later, with 50 more, Gale had exhausted all known possibilities and didn't know what to do. Knowing nothing about photography, she began taking pictures of the pot in different circumstances. She noticed that its white enamel surface could reflect anything. It acted as a mirror, taking on the qualities of its surroundings. She experimented. At midnight, she went out to photograph the pot using the car's lights to illuminate it. The headlights created a dramatic black and white contrast. Brake lights turned the pot red. Hazard lights produced a yellow pot. Sitting next to the TV, the pot turned blue. As Gale experimented, she became more and more interested in color. Over time, her drawings became very real, intensely photorealistic. She took the pot with her in a knapsack on a European vacation, wanting to capture the colors of Italian cities. The pot visited and had its picture taken underneath Michelangelo's tomb in Santa Croce, in Florence, and on a niche outside the cathedral at Chartres. Sometimes I'd find the simple, unassuming little place would be more remarkable than the remarkable place, Gail told me. Sitting down at a fountain to rest and think about where to photograph next, she'd turn around, and there, just where the pot was sitting, resting, was the perfect place to photograph it. Chance settings were often magic settings. A little bit of a longer reading this week, but what do you think? To me, this says, when we are focused on the outcome, when we are focused on the 100 drawings of the same object, that quantifiable number, right? When we are focused on achieving that specific number, that's when we get stuck, when we find ourselves coming up against limits. And it's when we rest in curiosity, when we stop focusing on the end game and start exploring, start listening, when we start turning our heads and saying, perhaps the place that the pot wants to be drawn next is where it is right now. When we let go of trying to achieve, trying to attain, that is when the new ways of exploring something become available, open themselves to us. That is when we are offered a depth and a richness that we can grow within. And I think that this ended up being the perfect pull for our void moon. When the moon is void, let us not focus on attainable outcomes, on those SMART goals that I know we all want to set for the new year. Instead, let us sit in stillness, in curiosity, in openness, in a connection to signs from the universe, something of spiritual or ephemeral nature. Let us simply be in love with the color of the pot. I even love how the pot is white enamel and reflects different light, just as we have been talking about the moon being the translator and reflector of the light, right? Allow yourself over these next few days to be fallow, be curious, to follow the nudges of the universe and the little synchronicities and the signs that this is something just to explore. Don't try to make it mean something or achieve something. Simply be in stillness, in reflection, in contemplation, and remember the interest you feel, the curiosity you feel for whatever the pot is in your life. And hey, by the way, if we get through this void moon coming in on the 7th, we have Venus in Capricorn conjunct Mars at 18 degrees of Capricorn. And then by the 9th, we've got the Sun conjunct Mars. So what this means is Venus, Mars, and the Sun are all traveling together very closely. There's this kind of rare triple cazimi happening in Capricorn between the Sun, our planet of vital force, Venus, what we love and desire, and Mars, the planet of action and will and drive. That's the time to be setting your intentions, right? 7th, 8th, 9th of January. That's the time when we can actually start something that we can build, that we have the stick-to-itness to build into something great. So hang on. These next few days, explore, feel, connect, contemplate, and meditate. Then let's hit 2026 running. Yeah? If you enjoyed this content, please do give me a like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I'd love to know you're out there and what you're thinking of all of this. And again, if you want to take a look at your year ahead, have a reading with an astrologer to talk about your specific astrology and your chart, it's what I love to do, guys. It's what I love to do. Come see me. You can go to emilytetomer.com to book a reading with me. And I wish you all a wonderful new year. Let's move into this brave new world of 2026 together. I'll see you next week.